Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like. I'm pulling out some archives here. This was issue 2, 2021. Had the founders of Calvera Skin Therapy, so we thank them for gracing the cover. Let's see how big this one was. This one was 164 pages, and let's see what I was doing. Ooh, it must have been the Olympics there. Got my USA 1980 Jim Craig up at Lake Placid, and anyway, played hockey 2 weeks before the Olympics. Played Northwood School and Lake Placid High School. I went to prep school in New Jersey, and we went up with Princeton Day School. I went to the Petty School, and we both went up on a bus, and we played those teams, and it was an awesome experience. A couple of weeks before, and then obviously, we beat the Russians, and that was the second gold medal. A lot of people think that was the first gold medal that we won in ice hockey in the Olympics, but in 1959 we won the gold medal there too, and a lot of people don't know that, but that one was the historic one, and I got to play on that sheet of ice. So it was, and man, was it cold when we were up there. We were up there, end of January, beginning of February, like I said, just a couple weeks before. And but it must have been amazing to be in that arena. But I'll tell you, I'm digital now, but I always like holding the magazine and seeing what was going on. And gee, I had a lot more hair back then, and it wasn't as gray. So but that's the way it goes, I guess. Anyway, it's TGIF today. Uh, just started the second month of Q2. We're in May. The pollen is ended finally. Just about here in Atlanta. Everything's been green for the past month, and the humidity's not hasn't come yet, but I know it's coming soon. But a beautiful day and getting ready for the weekend. Putting up my fence with a couple of guys this weekend, and I got some landscaping going on and poured my concrete this week and got my floors in yesterday. Cabinets are done, appliances are getting installed. It's like a big Lego set, but it's been an amazing 8 month bill with my wife. We're still married. We didn't get divorced because it's she's the interior designer. She designed the house. She's a contractor, and we bought this land back in 2020, and I said, look, if we build it, we're going to build it ourselves so we can use it for your portfolio. And now 8 months, boy, August till now, it feels like that. And but it's been amazing to see it up. And we're going to give it a really big splash in our issue 6, which is June, after we get moved in and everybody can see it and get it videographed. And but very, very exciting, and it's been an amazing experience, and learned a lot, and can't thank everybody that worked with us on that project. But in any event, what a fantastic week. And I'm getting ready for the weekend. Need to recharge my battery and get ready for next week. And before you know, it's going to be Memorial Day weekend, and then the summer comes, and halfway through the year. It just felt like it was January 1st. Now it's already May. It's just amazing how time is flying. So today I've got a nice gentleman. His name is Scott Rosenbaum, excuse me, and he's up in Lake Zurich, up in the great state of Illinois. Scott, say hello to our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk land.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually have Scott on because we're using Scott's tile warmers in our home. I put them in the master bathroom and the two guest bathrooms down on the first floor, and did it every way from install to finished product. And we're just about ready to finish that video. So we appreciate Warmly Yours, coming in and getting, it was funny because I always list warm lures in our flooring section, architectural building products gig, and I called the marketing guy up and I said, "Hey, Cameron, I'm doing this house, and I want to be sustainable. I want to have all these cool features. We should do something and put some of these tile warmers in." And anyway, it was great. I'd never seen them installed, so I videoed, and very simple to do. You could do it yourself. They're not that tough. If you have a good you listen, you can wire it yourself, but if you have a good electrician, they go in really easy. And but we really appreciate you working with us, on that project. So, Scott, the way we're going to do this, we're going to do it in three parts. You're going to tell us your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, kids, etc., how you ended up at Warmly Yours today. Then we'll transition into lessons learned that we've all been on the roller coaster after after the last 5 years. Even though we're out of the tunnel, there's still some speed bumps and potholes that are out there hindering us, and and then any cool trends that you might see or any cool projects that you've worked on, and then you'll leave your contact info on positive thought or phrase, and then we'll close out the episode. So with that said. The floor is yours. Tell us your story.
I like what you just did there. The floor is mine.
Yeah,
Very,
hey,
very
I
good
didn't even
there.
think about that. Thank you, you know.
Well, I grew up in Northwest Indiana, an area we call the region up here, just outside of Chicago. So my father was involved with the Chicago White Sox very heavily. So I did a lot of work with the White Sox. I worked with Harry Carey. If any people remember seeing the Cubs on WGN Superstation, I know you had your own superstation down there, but I worked with Harry Carey out in the bleachers when he broadcasted for the White Sox. So got to be a bat boy in a lot of different stadiums: Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, Cooperstown. So going to Cooperstown actually this summer to for Dick Allen to be inducted. My father was a coach on the team when Dick Allen played for the White Sox, so we got invited to go to his Hall of Fame induction this summer.
Awesome.
So, yeah, yeah. So grew up right outside of Chicago, real strong ties to Chicago, even though we're from the region. Some people like to live in the region and go back and forth to Chicago as opposed to live in that area. But so I got very interested in baseball and broadcasting and that sort of stuff. So when I graduated high school, I went to Indiana University and graduated there with a degree in radio television.
Oh, wow.
So after graduating, I was on the radio in Southern Indiana for a few years, and then moved to Chicago up here to be a little closer to my parents. And then I started working at a manufacturing company that made exercise machines. So those exercise machines are all over the world. They're in just about every ship, every military MWR department. So I've been to 28 different countries training people how to fix exercise machines. So treadmills, weight stacks, that sort of stuff. A lot of it electromechanical type things, machines, programming because they all have programs in them and the electrical part. So a lot of electrical mechanical stuff. So I started in a phone center for that company, talking to customers who needed parts for their machines. So I just became kind of, my goal was at that point to know the most in my team out of 20 people. I wanted to be the guy that knew the most about the machines. And I ended up knowing the most about the machines. So I got the technical training job because I could go out and train people how to fix the machines. And that led to multiple trips around the world, boats, planes, automobiles, all that sort of stuff to get to some pretty New Zealand, Australia,
Oh,
everywhere on
wow.
the planet you can put your finger down. I've been there. So I eventually got tired of traveling so much. I was on the road 60, 70% of the time, made it kind of tough. And that's why I was single through that, made it easy. And I didn't have any pets at that point. So I could pretty much go wherever I wanted to go and not have to worry about leaving stuff behind that needed attention. So I got tired of that. And then I got this job at Warmly Yours because I've worked in a phone center before. I learned things very quickly. Electric floor heating is nowhere near as complicated as electrical mechanical tread. How do you fix a treadmill? How do you reprogram the treadmill? How do you get the motor out? It's not quite as involved as that. However, there are some things when it comes to electrical floor heating that need experience and nuance and knowledge. Experience is the main thing. And I've been here at Warmly Yours for almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we've been in business for over 25 years. So we are very, very experienced when it comes to electric floor heating. We're also doing some stuff, a lot of stuff out in driveways, sidewalks. So we heat driveways, we heat sidewalks, we do roof and gutter heating to get ice from the roof, melting water. The main job of a roof and gutter job is to get the melting water down to the ground. Give it a place to go. And that's where you see the stalactites hanging from these in northern climates. You see the ice coming down. That's to eliminate that because that backs up under your roof and then comes inside your house, right? So you definitely don't want that. So we provide the know-how and the equipment to get that melting water down to the ground. That's the most important thing. So we've done a lot of work here. A lot of if you can heat it, pretty much that's always been our saying. If you can heat it, we'll help you.
Yeah, I think you came out with towel warmers too, right? I just
Yep,
got that
yep.
press release the I think this week or last week. I just saw it and I was like, oh wow, yeah, you know.
Yeah, electric towel warmers, defoggers for mirrors, because when you take a nice hot shower, you want to be able to see yourself. I don't so much, I prefer the fog on my mirror, but there are some people who want to see themselves in the mirror. So we do mirror defoggers with that, LED mirrors like the fancy ones you see in hotels that have the LEDs around the edges and stuff like that. So we have quite a footprint in this industry.
A couple things. I've done a couple events up in Chicago at Harry Carey's restaurant. And it's awesome if you go there because he's got all his old photos. The food's excellent, service is great, and I've been to almost caught a home run ball out in the outfield. I forget who the White Sox playing. Went to a day game there, but Dick Allen, he played for the. I'm out of from Philadelphia, so he played for the Phillies, and
Right?
got the MLB championship there with back in the day with Greg Lazinski and Steve Carlton and all that, and very fond of Dick. And I think there was another Bake McBride. I'm not sure if he played for. Did he play for the White Sox, Bake, or not?
No, no, the first two you mentioned, those are pretty good memories. Luzinski and Steve Carlton's last team was the White Sox. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah. Like I said, I mean, they float around, they get the
yeah.
championship, and then they go. They're almost ready to go out to pasture. But hey, I'll make a couple, a little more
But
coin.
the White Sox are notorious for getting players on their either as their last stop. Manny Ramirez, Ken Griffey. It's a laundry list of George Foster hit 50 some home runs and then comes to the White Sox and hits one. It's been that kind of Steve Carlton. Tom Seaver.
I was gonna
It's
say
a
Tom
whole
Seaver. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
whole laundry list of. Pardon my baseball geeky here, but it's you hit three out of the three with
Yeah.
the Phillies and the White Sox there. So good job.
I'll tell you, I went to Wrigley Field and saw them. They do the Subway Series, and it is such a rivalry there between the Cubs and the White Sox. If you've never been to Wrigley or even the White Sox, I mean that whole you get to go see a rivalry game. It is so much fun because you got the South Side, the North Side, and But it was a blast to watch that, and they still I like the old stadiums. They upgraded,
Hmm.
but they still have that character. And Veteran Stadium where the Phillies play, it's long gone, and looking back, I was a Philly. We call them the Filthies.
Yeah.
The Filthies, the Feebles, and the Fixers. So it's one of those things, but
Well,
always.
that AstroTurf at the Vet made a lot of people feeble. A lot of players tried to get out of there because that turf was notoriously hard on them.
Oh no, man, that ate up some knees a long,
Yeah.
long time ago. And actually, my uncle Leonard Toes, he was the owner of the Eagles. And when I was growing up, I'll throw some old names, during like Bill Berge, Ron Jaworski, when they played for the Eagle, Roman Gabriel, Harold Carmichael. Anyway, when I was growing up, we used to go to the games and stuff, and it was, but the turf ruined a lot of people's careers. It didn't matter if you were playing baseball, football. It was really, really bad. I saw one time a wide receiver. I think he played for the Bears. He blew up
He
both
did. Yep. I was
knees.
just going to say that. Yep.
I don't remember his name. Flipper was his name. I forget.
It escapes me right
But
now.
he
It
blew
escapes,
both knees out, ACLs on one play.
but
And
that seam wouldn't let his foot go, and that was
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I've had both my ACLs done, so I feel his pain. But I
You
remember watching it, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. And that was before they
know.
really even knew how to do surgeries. You get the big zipper up your whole leg, and but yeah, I've got fond memories of all that. But the White Sox always like to, red, white, and blue. Now they got the black and white. They sometimes still go back, but I love those old uniforms, man. They were awesome.
Yeah, it's a tough year for White Sox fans because the White Sox have been absolutely atrocious. the worst team in Major League history last year, and they're possibly on their way to doing it again. So that's always hard enough. But to be completely honest with you, White Sox fan, this is like the meeting of the two worst possible things. The White Sox are absolutely atrocious, and the Cubs are in first place, and it doesn't get much worse for a White Sox fan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, listen, it's a long season. The boys
It
have
is.
started, the
Oh,
Braves started
believe
out
me,
1-13, and
believe
now I
me.
think they're like 14-16. They've gone
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
rant. It's a long, long season, but every game counts.
it
I always
does.
say it. Every game counts. You want to win them all if you can, because when it comes down to it, at the end of the season, you can't go back and change the scoreboard. You got to go with what your record is, and
Yeah.
uh,
A win in April counts just as much as a win in September does.
Absolutely. I like winning every day, but you're not going to win every day, but you'll learn how to win in the future. So,
Hmm.
uh, let's talk about we'll transition into Mar 5 years ago, basically March of 2020. Everything's cranes everywhere, construction's booming, everything's going great, and all of a sudden, boom, everything stops. And now I thought it was going to be a couple weeks, a couple months. Here we are 5 years later. We're still kind of having the after effects of the roller coaster that we've all been on. Talk about how your firm weathered the storm per se, and till today, and how you weathered it, and what kind of lessons that you learned that our listeners out there out on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk would find of interest.
Well, that period of time was awful tough, and we had some personal loss here too. We had one person on our team who passed during that period, so that obviously impacts the team, and it's a tragic story. And it's tough to keep morale up when something as tragic as that happens to somebody as valuable as we had on the team, who had come here from a competitor actually and supplied us with a lot of information, and I learned a lot from him, and it was a personal loss to have somebody who's that knowledgeable, because it's not always what's written in the book. It's a lot of what has this person learned in real life out on the job, and that's why I mean I've installed. I can't even tell you the number of floor heatings I've installed outside in sidewalks and outside in patios, under pavers, in asphalt, in concrete. All of my knowledge I got from the outdoor stuff was through him. Having say, come out here with me, let's go do this. Fixing a broken cable because someone hit it with a shovel. When they were spreading the asphalt. There's just so much stuff that he was able to share. Like when you're out here working with these guys, have them turn the rakes upside down so they don't puncture the cable. I mean, the cable outdoor is very, very resilient until you take a metal piece and puncture it, going wham like that, trying to get the asphalt to move. And he said, tell them to turn their rakes upside down. Also, when they're working with concrete, and you're doing a concrete pour, have them put duct tape along the edges of their shovels because that's going to keep them from, going like this to move the concrete. Then all of a sudden, boom, there goes that cable too. So the cables for outdoor use are very, very resilient, but he taught me the things to share with people ahead of time. And that's what we try to do in our tech support department is try to share the knowledge we have because we've been out there, we've done it. We've fixed things with a homeowner, angry homeowner, angry installer. It's got to be our fault. But I go out there and go, listen, this wire got cut in a grout line, right? We can't change the history, but I can fix it, and we can get that floor working. The one thing I wanted to make sure that I learned right off the bat, and it's a common bit of misinformation, is that if you ever have a problem with your floor heat, that you'd be surprised at the number of people that say, yeah, you're going to have to rip out your whole floor and do that again. That's why we don't suggest electric. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. I've gone out and repaired hundreds of floors from people, cleaning grout lines and cutting into the wire. It's hopefully they didn't do it more than once. I've been on a job where they did it 15 or 20 times, and we had to say, well, I'm after the fifth repair. I'm not going to be able to do that. We are going to have to replace this floor, but that was 15 years ago. That's the one that I've had like that. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure I talked about. Is like one of my notes today to make sure I shared with everybody is if your floor gets damaged, it doesn't have to be replaced. We can fix it. So I think it's one of those things is we've learned that we try to share that. So over the last 5 years, we're trying to up our game. We've done a lot of videos. Like if you search for WarmlyYours on YouTube or did any of that stuff, you'll see. Unfortunately, it's a lot of it is me. So you're stuck looking at my ugly mug. But we're trying to get the information out there, right? Because one of the trying to go into one of the trends that I've seen lately is there are floor heating is becoming a bit of a commodity now. A lot of new companies are getting into it, and there's you're going to see low price here, low price there, low price wherever, But what we're finding out over this last amount of time as more people enter the field is that when they enter the field, they don't have the knowledge on how to support the product. They've been in the business for 6 weeks, right? So what are you going to know after 6 weeks in a market like ours? So what that means to Warmly Yours is we are, we're available 24/7. You call our toll-free number, me and three other tech guys are going to pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I've done snow melt consultations at 5 a.m. Central Time on a Sunday, where people have called and say, yeah, I got this. How am I going to put it in? That sort of stuff. That's what you get when you deal with a company like us. Unfortunately, new customers are buying new products from people that have no support departments. They'll see it on Amazon or wherever, or online, I guess I should word it that way because they're everywhere. And they'll call us, and one of our first questions is, well, do you have your order number, or where can I find you in our system? Well, I didn't buy it from you. I bought it from here. And I ask, well, have you tried calling them? Because obviously you'd rather call the people that make the product because they all know what the ohms readings are for that particular mat, how many feet of cables in the mat, all troubleshooting type questions you need to know. And again, no, I've called them and they don't call me back, or no, they don't have a support number. No, I need an answer right now. No one's available. So, I mean, that's one thing that we're now doing is we're supporting not only our product, but we're supporting everybody that calls in because they see our videos, right? I saw you were working on this floor. I need to fix my floor. Well, who made your floor? Well, it's brand X. It's not you guys. Or it's brand Y. It's not you guys. Okay, well, we'll try to help you as much as we can, and we can usually figure it out. I've gone out and repaired just about every competitor floor you can find, and it's all based in the simple theory, right? But sometimes you don't know what the actual ohms readings are that you're supposed to be getting. You're just kind of guessing because you didn't make the product. So you're kind of, well, this long a mat should have this number of ohms, I think, unless they did something, weird at their factory. So yeah, that's the one major thing we've seen is we're supporting not only ourselves, we're supporting the industry. And I guess we look at it as if we can prop up the industry, that makes it good for everybody, right? And we'll get maybe some, I can't tell you the number of people who've said, you guys have been such a help. Thank you so much for this. I've got a job coming up next month. I'm going to use you guys instead because I know I can get a hold of you. All you need to do is call us and we're going to answer your questions. So that's the main thing from the tech support, point that I've seen is we're here to make sure our floors work. That's why we've been in business for so long, right? Because we're not here to get in the pointing the finger game. Whose fault is it? It's our responsibility. We need to figure out how to fix it. And how that gets done, we don't really care as long as it gets done, right? So the most important thing to us is to make sure that when you buy your floor, you put your floor in, 7 years from now, you have a problem with the thermostat, or we need to test the floor, that you have a number that you can get a hold of on Saturday or on Friday night. If you got home from work and it's not working, you can call us. That's the kind of support that we also provide. And one thing that I've also found out in the support world is if somebody has a room, like if you're going to heat a room, what you should do is just make a sketch of that room. And when you make a sketch of that room, make sure that you mark where the heat vents are, because we're working on a floor, right? So we need to make sure that any holes in the floor need to be worked around. So let's say that you put a tub in and your significant other says, you know what? we got this plan from Warmly Yours, and that was for the 3x5 tub. Let's make this a stand up, a standalone tub. Let's make it 6x8. Well, as the floor available floor space shrinks because other things are expanding, that plan that we gave you is not going to fit anymore. And the thing with electric floor heating is you can't just buy a big spool and cut it into pieces. You have to have the correct size. If you cut a resistance wire, like a floor heating wire, if you cut it, that's a resistance wire. If you remove resistance, amperage goes up. When amperage goes up, that means it gets real hot. And it gets real hot real fast. And that's why you can't just cut a cable. So my cable's too long. What do I do? Well, get the correct size cable. So what we do is we say, give us a plan, show us where your toilet is, because we don't heat under the toilet. Never, ever heat within 4 inches of a wax ring of a toilet. And you'll know why if you do it, because you'll have toilet contents instead of going down the drain, they're
Yeah.
going out on your floor. So you want to make sure that you don't melt that wax ring. So you keep away from it. You keep away from holes in the floor. You stay away from pipes that are for the drain of a stand, a clawfoot tub. Stay away from the drain. I can't tell you the number of times that the electrician drills a hole through the floor to put the hot water pipe and the cold water pipe and the drain, and one of them hits the wire. So you want to stay away from that. So show us that, and then what we'll do is we'll get you a plan for free that shows you exactly how to lay it out on the floor. And it lets you follow. The number one thing I see into people when they're doing their first job is they kind of get that, oh geez, how do I figure out how much I need? I'm kind of taking the square footage and I want to do this. How much should I do? Just send us a drawing, because we'll do all that for you. We'll get you the right product. We'll tell you what size circuit breaker you're going to need. We're going to tell you how many watts it's going to be, what the amp draw is. All that is included for free, and you probably have it within a day or two. So it's not like you're waiting a long time for this plan. Just get it to us the day before, and you probably have it tomorrow. So
That's
those are the
totally right.
things.
We talked before we did our framing, and we had wired the electrician had wired where the thermostat was going to go. That's the control that and the amount of heat or et cetera that you're going to put on there. In addition, just like you said, we sent the plans. You came in. You sent us the material, everything. You're gonna have to trim the mat, obviously, but it's pretty simple. There's a mat. They've got kind of these rows where you push down the electrical wire that's going to warm your floor. It sits down, so it's kind of safe. You put a little adhesive to put the mat in, then you put the wire in, and then you have to wait for the electrician. Then they put the tile down, and then and at least this is the way that we did it. And then we hooked up the thermostat when we finished the bathroom. And but simple install, but definitely everything. They didn't put it by the toilet, just up into the front of it, and that area was left. And same thing, with the tub, and everything fit. I'll tell you, I did the master bath, and I did uh, two bathrooms downstairs, and they went in. It went in quick. I mean, it's an easy install. My installer, flooring installer, they were familiar with it. They knew exactly what they were doing. Uh, their English wasn't that great, but still, they were excellent craftsmen, flooring installers. And man, they cranked it out. I didn't have to tell them anything. They didn't look at the instructions. They were just like, yeah, man, they were just like, hey, is this the right room for this? I'm like, yeah. And all the material, we had very little stuff left over. I mean, it was perfect. You guys don't waste much. You can have a lot. Sometimes you'll have too much scraps. Maybe you might not have enough. It was just it was the perfect amount. And
Yeah.
so we were psyched. Then you just have to wait for your electricity to get turned on in your house to make sure that everything works, which we just did a couple of weeks ago. And but it's an awesome thing. We were going to put a basement in our house, and after we cleared the land, I had to bring in all this dirt to lift the house up, and it was just going to look like a big zit out of the ground. And
Hmm.
our driveway was going to be basically just a hill. And my grader's like, "You should really get rid of the basement." And I was putting it in for my mom and my sister in case they wanted to, move in when it's down the road. And I just called him up and I said, "Hey, look, you're gonna have to walk down the stairs to get down to that basement anyway, but I can build a whole nother house for what I'm gonna build that basement on." So you can pick whichever room that you want. But we're on a slab now, but still in the winter, it gets cold here a couple months out of the year, and we just, even though we're not going to use it in the middle of summer, the bottom line is it gets cold. It's a slab. So having your feet warm when you get out of the shower in the middle of winter, it's just a nice little touch. And we try to be as green as possible too. And we've got these AI sprinklers that we put in. We try to do a lot of stuff to make the house as green and sustainable as possible, but also cutting edge, things that people wouldn't think about. And but the installation was really, really easy. And well, like I said, I've got to finish my video now that the tiles on there and the bathrooms are done. That's my last video that I'll do when I do my testimonial. So uh, in any event, I know exactly where you're coming from. And but I'll tell you, customer service has disappeared in just the world in general. Everything's on chatbot. So to get someone that picks up a phone at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning that you can talk to, don't ever give that up because that's what separates, as far as it separates any company from the people that just go the digital route and the chatbot, and you can't get anybody. And yeah, you got, it's one of those things. You want to stay on schedule, to get
Yeah,
your
yeah.
project done, right?
Exactly. And there are some things that we've learned over our experience that really help people out. First of all, we rent tools to electricians that'll allow people to have their floor troubleshooting done so they can find the bad spot and not just rip up the whole floor, but to find the bad spot where it is, lift that tile, fix that spot and put that tile back down without destroying the rest of the room. So I think, and I think I'm going to say, I think that we're the only company that does that. So we get reached out to by lots of customers. I mean, I could give you a laundry list of the brands of the floors that our parts have fixed because we can find that spot. We can get it fixed and we can work with a local electrician because it's a pretty simple thing. You heat up a bad spot with a high voltage, you use a thermal camera, you find that hot spot and you mark it, you break that tile and you fix it. If you have a short, you just use a variable transformer to heat the area up to that short, and you'll see that thermostat, not the thermostat, but the thermal picture will show you right where the heat ends. That's where your short is. So that allows you to fix that too. So there's a lot of different ways to fix that. And one thing I wanted to let everybody know from a contractor's point of view, a lot of people that haven't worked with electric or floor heating for that matter, is some people will assume, first timers, that they'll just buy a strip of heat and they'll put it down the middle of the room and they'll expect it to spread out. Well, it's going to heat the whole room, right? It doesn't. It only heats about an inch and a half laterally from that wire. So if you have a 3 foot mat, it's going to heat 3 feet and an inch and a half, 3 feet and an inch and a half on the other side. And that's what the spread is you're going to get. So that's why we always try to get under the toe kicks in front of vanities. Don't stay away from the toe kicks, get down in the toe kicks, but don't go under the vanity. You can't go under the vanity. The National Electric Code won't let you do that.
No, you
But
don't
you
go in the
can,
vanity. That's where the
yeah,
where our vanity was. That's where they stopped it. Where they went right by the dimensions and the drawings that you
yep,
guys had sent us. So
yep.
yeah.
Right up to that toe kick, because the last thing you want are cold toes if you're needing to look into your defogged mirror, right? So that's the thing you want to look out for. Also, people that are on concrete slabs. Concrete slabs. What we try to do to try to be energy efficient is talking about green is we want to run the heat for as short a time as possible. So we want that floor to be warm when you walk into it in the morning in a bathroom. Then after you walk out at 8 o'clock, we want it to cool back down. And then we want it to automatically come back on when you come back at night. There's no need to run that heat all
During
day at the same amount.
yeah, when no one's there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the green part. That's what's so great about electric floor heat because we keep it 9 times out of 10 out of the slab so we can heat it faster. We can heat it in a small area and then we don't heat areas. Think about now, if you had a basement, this is Basementville up here where we live, right? But for you, when you said basement, I go, really? That's a surprise.
No, listen,
Um,
in Georgia, everybody's got a basement. I mean,
really?
when I moved here in 92, my first house was on a slab and we had a tornado came in, it went across the county and it was really close to my house. It came in about 2:30, 3 o'clock. We knew they were coming in. It's not like now before, it was before cell phones where you could watch the storm come in but anyway, there was so much pressure when this tornado came through. The water, I was sitting in my downstairs bathroom with my wife, my dog, and my newborn, and I had no place to go. I couldn't run across the street to my neighbor's basement because there was just too much debris in the area, and the water was coming through so much pressure. The water was coming through the windows, and I looked at my wife. I go, "We're selling this house. I'm not going to live in Georgia without a basement." So we had a basement all the way through, and when we uh, built this house. It was supposed to be an empty nester house, but I was thinking for my mom. She's 85, still, with it, and anyway, for my sister too. And I just wanted to have them have their own area. But after we cut the land, it was really an economic decision because I had to raise the house to build the basement because the land just, you can it was a forest that we cut down. But then, if your land's not cut the right way, plus we were up by the water, so they don't let you dig. And the Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, they control everything. And so it just wasn't feasible. And I had another one of my neighbors. There's only 52 homes in our subdivision that he built his house up, and it just doesn't look good. Nothing against him if you're watching
Hmm.
this,
Hmm.
but you just have to look at things, and I didn't want my house to be able, look what I built, it just didn't
Right.
look right. And now people drive by, they're like, oh my God, that it's unbelievable what you did there. And I said, yeah, if we had the basement, it just wouldn't have been obnoxious. And I already had all that square footage. That's why I got rid of the big house. My son graduated, I need all that space. But I'll tell you the most important thing. We had a house in Vail for 30 years up in Colorado. I went to University of Denver as a ski bum, really a hockey lacrosse player. But um, we had heaters in there, and you can't imagine how many people get hurt by icicles that are coming off the house. It's very, very, very dangerous. And I know I have snow retention advertisers in the magazine, but that heating of your driveway, your sidewalk, you don't get to slip and fall. Your gutter. It's not an expensive item to put in. It's a very easy installation if you have installers that know what they're doing. So if you're in that area, like in Colorado, you have warm and those drastic things. So there's some maintenance that you just want to keep your eye on. But in general, if you're in a snowy area and you don't want to deal with shoveling or your sidewalk or whatever, put those heat warmers in there, and it'll be an amazing thing. Your neighbors will be so jealous that you didn't put it in, and you got to do it in before you pour the concrete. That's just the reality of it. So, uh,
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize when we talk to first timers when it comes to sidewalks, you want to heat everything. Stairs, you want to try to heat as much as you can. But when it comes to driveways, you don't have to heat. If you have a 200,000 square foot driveway, you don't have to heat 200,000 square feet. All
no,
you do, you just heat 12 feet out in front of your garage. Then you do tire tracks out to the road. And that reduces, first of all, your installation cost. It reduces your purchase price, and it reduces your electric bill quite a bit. So the number one thing we see is people go, I want my whole driveway. Then they go, oh, I need to put a nuclear power plant next door to have enough power. Well, you don't need to do that. You just need to do tire tracks, and that's going to
yeah,
save you a lot of money. And for really, really big jobs, we have a snow melt controller that'll allow you to actually heat one section at a time up to 4 different zones. So if you only have enough power to do a quarter of it, well, we'll heat a quarter of it, we'll turn it off, turn the next one on, turn it off. So they're never on at the same time so it doesn't blow your circuit breakers, right? So on, off, just a second apart, off, 1001, on. So there's never an overlap there. And that allows you to do 4 times the area that you would otherwise be able to do. The only caveat with that is it can take longer to do. So it's one of those things where if you have one zone, that's the best because it all heats at once and it gives you a nice clear surface. However, you then do 2 zones, it can sometimes take twice as long, 3 zones, sometimes 3 times. So once again, it's a compromise, right? It's letting you melt the whole area, but the best way to do it is all at once. But if you can't do that and you have time, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. And it just starts over and just goes like that until it melts. Now, what happens with snow melting is there's two different parts with snow melting. There's the actual snow event when it's actually snowing and it's below 38 degrees. Then once that stops, those conditions are no longer met, then it goes into the after run. And that is an adjustable time that keeps melting after the snow stops. Because if you stop it right when the snow stops, you're going to
It's
have a
gonna
bunch of
freeze.
slush. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to have a bunch of slush. Otherwise, you're in trouble. But let that after run go through, so let it go through, melt all that stuff. And that's what we're seeing. And when it comes to snow melt controls or any controls like that, what we're seeing, another trend that we've seen here recently is surprisingly, not all customers are interested in the fanciest controls. They just want something that's simple, that works, and is attractive while it does that. So there are some people that I want to automate my house and I want every single thing, including when the freezer makes ice. I want to go as granular as I possibly can. And there are other people that go, it works great. Let it work great. I just want one simple, I want to control it with an on-off switch or a Wi-Fi on-off switch. So keep it simple. Some people love it. Some people like it simple. Some people like really, really
Oh, the
elaborate
thermostat,
things.
the little dial, the thermostat, it's digital. It's so easy to use. And like I said, we wanted it kind of just like as an asset, and it was something that we were thinking about. Biggest thing is, listen, if you're doing a renovation, much tougher because the floors are already down. But if you're doing a new build, you just have to wire all that stuff pre-hand, talk to the electrician. He'll make sure you have the right, fuse box and all that. And the wire was there. I just had to wait for him to, come in and finish stuff and then put the tile down. And now everything's done. Now I can do my video. But the thermostat's been up there for weeks now. I've just been waiting for them to finish the house because I want it to look nice when I do my final
Mhm.
testimonial for you. But it's been awesome, and I know people are gonna when we have our open house or whatever, they're gonna come in and go, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's the tile warmer." Really? Does it work? Yeah, you want to see how quick it boom, and you'll feel it, and you can decide on where you want it. But you're getting out, and when it's cold, listen, the slab gets cold. It's winter. It gets like cold maybe 2 or 3 months of the year down here. So but to me, I just. I just thought my wife would like it, and if we had guests at the house, they would be psyched, and they'd be like, "Ooh, and this is a really nice touch." So
You'd be surprised.
it
You'd be surprised at the people that have had floor heat that they've either upsized or downsized and they moved into a new house and they go, you know what? I think this sounds stupid, but the thing I can't live without are warm floors. My old house had warm floors. I don't even know what to do. My mind explodes because I can't walk in this cold tile. You'd be surprised how many phone calls we get like that.
Oh no, like I said, and the thing about you talked about, it doesn't grow out. It's got that 1 inch. So when they lay the rubber mat, I hope I'm not saying the right, but that's what it was. It's basically it comes in a roll. You roll it, you cut it to the dimensions, and it's got these little grooves that you stick the wire in, and you basically run it. Not right next to it. It's got about a couple inches in between, but it goes up and down, and it's done. They put adhesive down, they put the mat, they put the wire on, and then they wire it. So it's going up to where the thermostat's going to put in once the sheetrock is installed. And then you paint, and then when you're done, you put the thermostat on there so it doesn't get ruined during that process. But other than that, that's what it is. It's such a cool product. And
The one
like,
thing about that product that you're talking about is you can do different spacing. So that's the one last thing I wanted to talk about with trends is what we've been
sure.
working on trend wise is geo targeting the watts per square foot in your driveway, in your sidewalk, and also in your bathroom. So what a lot of people, somebody in Georgia that lives in an area that gets snow and they want to run their snow melting, they would probably do 4 inch spacing. It doesn't need to be as much as powerful as somebody that is in Nova Scotia that needs to have 3 inch spacing. And it's the same thing if you're talking about in your house. Now, if you're putting the wire on a concrete slab, first of all, we would always say we don't like it going directly on a slab. We'd rather have insulation from the slab because the heat gets pulled down into the slab. So we want a barrier to make it go up and not down because we want that area to heat up quickly. And we don't want to heat 6 inches of concrete. We want to heat an inch.
Yeah, the tile.
So yeah, so there's a difference. So a lot of people here On the first floor on a slab, they'll use 3-inch spacing because they have a lot of things that people don't think about is heat loss in a room. And I could go down the rabbit hole, but if you think about skylights, if you think about exterior walls, if you think about windows in exterior walls, if you think about fireplaces, any of those things are heat loss, and that's going to let the heat out. So a room like that needs to have very high watts per square foot. Now, if you are going to put a bathroom on your second floor and it's above the kitchen, and that kitchen is always warm, and that floor between the kitchen ceiling and the bathroom floor, if that floor is already starting at 70 or 74 degrees, you don't need to have 3-inch spacing in that floor. You can do 4-inch spacing because that doesn't need as many watts per square foot to warm up because it's already warm, right? You just want to get it from 75 to 84. That's different than going from 50 to 84.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't even spec it from. We have one bathroom upstairs. It's a southern ranch, but we do have an upstairs. We have a meeting room, an office, and basically a bedroom in the attic. But I didn't even put it in the bathroom upstairs because it was right above the kitchen, and we ran the flue.
mhm,
It was right there, and I was like, we don't need it up here because it's going to be warm. Heat rises, and uh, uh, and I'll tell you, when we built the house, I told my wife, I was like, all the houses we've always had issues with insulation up in the roof, and we hired this subcontractor, and he came in, and I just told JR, I was like, look, I want to make sure that I am buttoned up here because I want this house to be. I want the cold air kept in or the hot air kept in, depending on what time of the year it is. And he goes, David, man, it's gonna be like Fort Knox in here. And sure enough, with the insulation and everything else, and then I looked at my, I'm like, I told you we didn't need that in the top bathroom because it wasn't on the slab. It was on wood, and the heat was coming up anyway. And
mhm.
so good point, because I always wondered what the difference was when we were laying it, why that 2-inch, 3-inch, or whatever the variance was when you lay the electrical wire into the mat, that what the difference was. But now I know. I just learned
Well,
something. I learn
and
something new
what?
every day.
Well, how about that? And the one thing you want to do is you don't want to get that wire beyond like 4 to 5 inches. The further it gets apart, remember you only get an inch and a half on each side of the wire. So if you get it too far apart, you're going to get striping where it's going to be warm, cool, warm. It's going to look like if you take a thermal camera, you'll just see stripes going down the floor as opposed to a big red blob. It's going to be striping. So that's why you can't get the wire too far apart, but you can stretch it out, save some money on your electric costs and your installation, and get the right amount of cable where you need to have it. So that's very important because one last story, because I see all these, and I think the contractors will enjoy this too, is that I got called into this room, into this huge bathroom, and the homeowner said, I can never get this floor to get warm. It's on full blast all the time, and it can't get warm. And so that either tells me that maybe they have a 240-volt system hooked up to 120, so it doesn't have enough oomph to do what it's doing, or the cables are too far apart, or there's something very mysterious going on. And these are the nuances that we learn after 25 years of being in the business, right? So luckily it was local. So I went out to the house, and as soon as I walked in, that bathroom had 3 exterior walls. It had windows in each wall. It had a 16-foot ceiling, and it had a fireplace. And it also had a skylight, I think. All of those things together are going to suck all the heat out, and that floor is putting out as many BTUs as it can, and it just can't keep up, and it even makes the floor cold. So that's why we came up with a heat loss calculator on our website, where if you're thinking about, hey, you could use electric floor heating as the sole source of heat, if the BTUs needed to heat that room are less than the BTUs that you can provide to it, right? So if our system, if your room needs 3,000 BTUs and our system can supply 3,500 BTUs, you can use it as a sole source of heat. It works. But if your room requires 4,000 BTUs and we can supply 3,000, it is a supplementary tool to keep your floor warm. So if you're ever interested in doing sole source of heating with electric floor heat, just do our heat loss calculator. It'll tell you how many BTUs the room needs, and it'll tell you how many BTUs we can give.
I'll put my video once I get this last part of it, and I know I got to send it up to the marketing department up there. But once they approve it, I'll put it on this video on this description area of our episode. I'll put it in there because I took pictures of it from the boxes, taking it out, putting it in, phase, and then the finished product, and then my little testimonial. Hey, this is how it works. It's been great, and so I'll put that in there when it's finished. So, but very, very informative. So if you're out there, if someone was out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, and maybe they were thinking about it, or maybe they were building a multifamily or a hotel and they were renovating, they wanted to, have this this would be maybe a reason why someone might, get a hotel room versus a competitor. If they wanted to bump some questions off you on, hey, this is what I was thinking, what are my options? How would someone reach out to Warmly Yours or yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have a very well-trained sales department. So the sales department will get all the information you need. They'll get your drawing from you. They'll get the drawings put through our engineering department. They'll get you a plan. On that plan, you'll know how many watts it takes. You'll know how many breakers it takes. Not only do we do floor plans inside homes, we do floor plans for driveways too. We'll show you how many breakers you need, how many circuits you need, all that stuff. And the sales reps will do that. And then what we do as a tech support department is if you have a really large installation, we'll schedule a meeting with you ahead of time. So you can ask, you can have your plans. You can say, on this plan, what do I do? And we will go over those plans with you and tell you, okay, look for this, watch for that. Make sure you have the thermostat where the mat really starts, because the thermostat has to be here, and you don't start the mat over here. You start it over here, because that's how you work your way. And we will do that plan for you for free. We'll do the meeting with you for free. There's no charge for any of this stuff. And so you can get a hold of us at sales@warmlyyours.com, warmlyyours.com, two Y's in the middle. And our phone number is 800-875-5285. And you'll always get an answer from us to your questions. So if you have any questions about that, give us a call. We'll be glad to help.
Listen, this gentleman's an expert. He's been around for even though he's only 26, and listen, if you're doing a new build, I'm going to suggest it, depending on where you're living, you can decide, the different levels that you want to go in. Like I said, we just wanted the downstairs bathrooms because we were on the slab. It's only so many months that we'll probably use it, but it's going to be there. It's not outrageously expensive. It's an asset. It's something that's going to separate you from, your neighbors if they're selling your house. And anybody that buys a house, they're going to be psyched if they never had that heated floor before. It's just a really, really cool gig. So, call these guys up. They're experts. They've been around for a long, long time, which is why I went with the best, I deal with Cameron, in the marketing department, so he always fills out the flooring and architecture product. And I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, I think I want to put these tile warmers in there. Let's talk." And boom, now they're in, and it's been a really good experience. And you guys were like clockwork. The draw, everything's been first class. Everything was first class. So, um, uh, listen, if anyone wants to reach me, I'm at David C at ccr-mag.com. And the reason why I actually was thinking about the tiles, I had gotten a press release from Cameron, and it was just at that time when we were, doing our budgeting, our planning, and getting ready to, and I just reached out and I said, hey, we're doing this, and I'm going to put this residential column in the magazine. We're going to cover it. I think it'd be really cool if we could figure out a way that we could work together, and that's how they got in. But it was all came from a press release. I probably would have thought of it anyway because he's been in that flooring section
Good to
forever.
know. Good to know.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things. And so I just reached out, I asked a question, and then and here it is. So, but if like I said, we had just under 49 million people hit the website last year. This year, I just had 7.6 million. I'd had another almost 7 million this month. Who knows where I'm going to end up this year? But I'm telling you, if you have something, it could be an anniversary, it could be a new product announcement, it could be personnel, a charity golf tournament. Hey, you're doing a gig at the White Sox game. I look at everything. We will post it up there. We'll share the link with you. It's all SEO, index, Google certified, it's a win-win. Our turnaround time for posting stuff is probably about 48, 72 hours. If I know you, I'll probably get it done in that day. But we post content all day. Very tough to get in the magazine, but we have plenty of social media platforms that we post on every day. And send it. Don't judge it. It's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't find a place for it, and maybe you might end up in the magazine. Who knows? But send it to us, and we'll go from there. So, as we finish up, uh, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd like to leave with our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk as we go in the second month of Q2 and we finish out the remainder of 2025, what would it be?
What we sign off our webinars with all the time is a simple statement that says, stay warm and be radiant. And that's the way we
Yeah.
do things.
I like it. I like it. Stay warm and be radiant. I like the word radiant in general. So,
Yeah.
it's got all types of meanings and that you can bridge upon. That's awesome. So, a couple things before we sign off here. If you're on a construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home, be able to eat dinner with your family, your kids, your pets, have some fun, watch some tube, get some REM sleep, and be able to go do it the next day. Number two, you got to stay hydrated. This is the athlete in me. When you get dehydrated, you make mistakes. You make a bad pass. You don't want to get hurt on the construction site. So make sure you drink lots of liquid water. If you're drinking water, put some electrolytes in there. Stay liquefied. First of all, you're going to have a much better day. You're going to sleep better. You're going to get up feeling better. It's just an awesome way to go. And last but not least, hit the like button. We want YouTube to find the algorithms out there so we can find this episode and hear what Scott had to say. And it's an endless battle, trying to build up and so forth. But listen, just hit the like button, and we really appreciate it. So Scott, and if I come up, into your neck of the woods, I want to come out on a project to see. First of all, I want to see your office, but I'd love to go out and see an install, with some of your guys, and just to see it. I never saw a driveway done. That would be really really cool because I've seen a bathroom, but I'd like to see a driveway or how they do the gutters. I'm into all that stuff.
Yeah, now's the time to think. Well, the thing is, this is such a cyclical business, right? So what people need to think about now is get your plans in for your driveways. Get your plans in now for your
Before the
sidewalks.
winter.
Get ready for this winter because the last thing you want to be doing is trying to go out and lay concrete after the concrete
It's
businesses have
frozen.
closed. Yeah. And after the asphalt factories have shut down, the plants have shut down. Get that stuff done, get the plans to us now, and then at least you have the plans and you're ready to go when you can strike while the iron's hot.
Hey, timing in business is everything. So there you go. And once again, yeah, you don't want to do it in the winter. Plan ahead, think about it, and you'll be a happy camper the following year when I got my floors are, I'm not worried about it. My driveway is going to be melted.
I can
And neighbors
drive
are
right
like,
up. One thing is that people don't even think about is sometimes you don't have to do your whole driveway either. If you're on a hill and you're coming down to a road, a lot of people just heat the area right before you get to the road so they can stop. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of different things you can do, and we'll be glad to work with you on that.
Well, this man's a professional, so he's been around a while, and give him a shout, shoot him an email, go to the website, whatever you need to do. But if you're thinking about, warming your floors, your tile, etc., these guys are experts, and that's why we went with them, and we're psyched that we did. So with that, Scott, say goodbye from Lake Zurich up in
Goodbye from
Illinois.
Lake Zurich and stay warm and be radiant.
Yeah, stay warm and be ready. I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below Lake Lanier, where my house is on the other side, on the west side of the lake. And we're about 30 miles north of downtown ATL, the LA of the South. And listen, everybody, have a great rest of your TGIF. May's here. Summer's going to be here before you know it. And have fun, relax this weekend, recharge yourself, and get ready for another fantastic and constructive week ahead. And we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Scott, pleasure meeting you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you all next time. Cheers.